Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout chair for you. I personally am a huge fan of YouTube layout chairs. I love watching somebody share a whole stack of their layouts. I feel like I get so many great ideas from those videos, and I'm hoping that you get some ideas from this video today. So all of these layouts in this video were created for the Shimmerz design team. I use the Color Kitz collection, which is a monthly kit that Shimmerz Paints has available. And if you are interested in the Shimmerz Color Kitz collection, you could take a look in the description box. There'll be a link to where you could purchase a subscription, but you don't have to purchase a subscription. If you want to try it out, you can purchase either just the papers and embellishments or just the paints, or you can get a kit and you can get a combination of those two things. That would be the complete kit. But there's more information in both the description box and on the Shimmerz website about that. One last thing about that, if you place an order with Shimmerz Paints, please use my name in the comments to receive a free gift. Okay, I'm going to get started right in. I want to mention that most of these layouts have a process video. There's just one layout that I haven't put the process video out for. I think I'm going to, but it was just a very long video and I was trying to edit it down and I just couldn't get it out in time. But I will point that layout out when we get to it. The rest of them have process videos that are up on my channel. So I'm going to start out with this layout. This layout was from January, and I used a border punch to punch out some scalloped strips for either side. I have my mixed media background using my Shimmerz paints. I have some modeling paste over the paints, and then I have some fussy cut and die cut embellishments all around my photo. For this layout, of course, once again, I have my mixed media background. For this one, I did a lot of stamping on it, also stenciling. And then I have some banners that were made using the pattern papers, and I have these layered borders up on top, and then those same types of flowers that were either die cuts or fussy cut from the pattern papers. For this layout, I use these beautiful flowers from the kit and I painted them in using the Shimmerz paints. For the leaves, I used some dies that were in my stash and I cut the leaves out of, I believe, watercolor paper, and then I used my paints to paint them, and then I used some gloss gel medium to coat them to give them kind of more of a sheen to look more like real leaves. This is an embellishment from the kit, and you'll see on most of my layouts I use lots of jewels from my stash to embellish the layouts and just add those final touches. For this layout, I mixed some gel medium with some Shimmerz paints, and I used a stencil to make this chevron kind of shape in the background, and then I used those same flowers, just colored them a little bit differently to make some clusters in 3 different places, and you'll see little embellishments from the kit used around the page as well. For this layout, I used some strips of pattern paper. I love this film strip, and then I love rabbits, so I love that there were a whole bunch of rabbits to embellish my layout. I have some die cut leaves, once again using the Shimmerz paints to paint them, and then I have my mixed media background. And this is the reason why I love rabbits so much. This is our little bunny rabbit, Skitsy. We had her for quite a few years, I would say. I had rabbits when I was younger, but I guess I didn't give them as much attention as I did Skitsy, and Skitsy and I were just super great friends. When my daughter went to college, I took over her care and I just fell in love with her. And so for this layout, there were plenty more bunnies to include on the layout. I used those same leaves that I used on the other page, and then a number of different elements that were either die cuts or fussy cut from some of the papers. And then I also use the cut file that is available with the kit. Every month there's a different cut file. So this layout was made using the cut file for this Color Kitz collection, I love the detail in the flowers, and so I layered up a bunch of these beautiful daisies. I cut them a number of different sizes, and then I also used the leaves that came along with the daisies, and then I placed this wreath on this beautiful black and white striped paper, and then I have my photo right in the center. So for this layout, I use this pattern paper around the edge. I love using this kind of striped paper for borders. I feel like it brings so many different colors into the layout, and yet because it's such a small amount, it doesn't make the layout too busy. I use a number of the ephemera pieces that were included in the kit, and I used one of the dots. These beautiful dots, you'll see them on most of the layouts, and these are also included in the kit each month. My background has just some yellow paint with some modeling paste on top of it. And I love this hot air balloon and the sun behind it. For this layout, I used the monthly cut file. I layered it on top of a mixed media background. I again use some modeling paste in the background. I have another smaller cluster over here. All of these flowers were fussy cut from one of the pattern papers, and then some of the leaves were as well, but these darker ones, these are die cuts that I use my Shimmerz Paints to color. Whoops. And then this is also the die cut. I just made it a little bit smaller for this smaller cluster. For this layout, I made my mixed media background, and then I layered some of these blue fussy cut flowers on top. And then I also used some of the pattern papers around the outside and then layered behind the photo. I love using hexagons on my layouts. I usually use them in a little bit more of a random way, but I liked this composition as well, so I thought I would give this a try. I have a whole bunch of hexagons of the different pattern papers. I made a mixed media background behind my hexagon background, and then I layered my photo on top of it, and I also added a number of the embellishments from the kit. So this layout, it's probably not my favorite layout of the bunch, but I guess there's always going to be one or two that aren't exactly the way that I wanted them to come out, not exactly what I had envisioned when I first started. But that's okay. For this layout, I use a number of strips of paper. I also layered a punch on top to create a little border, a little separation between this busy strip and this busy background. I have a smaller cluster over here. And then I cut this banner out from a piece of paper using a die from my stash, and I backed it with some purple paper. And I really love these particular embellishments. These were included in the kit. I feel like they're very unique, very different from other things that I've used on scrapbooking layouts. And over here I have some tags with some bows. For this layout, which is one of the ones that I like a little bit more, I used a mixed media background. I have a lot of stenciling and some stamping as well, and I used shades of blue in the background. And then I layered these beautiful lemons and flowers on top. I used some letters, I think they were thickers from my stash, and these thickers were the kind that you could use paints on. There's a little bit of a resist. You see the circle resist in the center, and I loved how well those worked with my Shimmerz paints. For this layout, I used one of my kind of go-to compositions, which is pattern paper on one side and mixed media on the other side. I use those same letters on this layout. And then these strawberries, these were from the color and cut sheets. So you color them in and then you cut them out, and then you have a whole bunch of ephemera to use on your layouts. So for the background, I use this beautiful color that I absolutely love, and then I added some circular modeling paste on top of it. For this layout, I have this background that kind of looks like a heart. I don't think I originally meant for it to look like a heart, but I'm okay with the way that it turned out. I have, once again, some modeling paste on the background, some stamping, and once again, these embellishments, or most of the embellishments, were made by painting in the sheet and then fussy cutting out the images. I also used some fussy cut pieces, and then you can also see here's one of the dots. Isn't that just so beautiful? So pretty. For this layout, I used a different stencil in the background, but I used a lot of modeling paste on top of my Shimmerz paints, a little bit of stamping, not too much stamping, and then lots of clusters of leaves and flowers that I fussy cut out from one of the pattern papers. This month's kit was just so vibrant, and I just was absolutely in love with it. So here's another layout that I made, and for this layout, I mainly used fussy cut pieces. There were so many pattern papers that I was just dying to fussy cut out when I saw them. And then I made a background using my gel plate and Color Splash sprays. The Color Splash sprays from Shimmerz are paints that work really well on the gel plate. So I wanted to make kind of a plain blue background. You don't only want to use one color so that you'd be able to see all of these different embellishments, and I was happy with the way that worked out using the gel plate. So this layout is the only one that there isn't a process video for currently on my channel. I just couldn't get it edited down to the time that I wanted to. It's just a very long video, but I'm still going to work on it. So for this layout, I use this very subtle but funky pattern paper. I painted in these flowers, fussy cut them out, and then I put them into different clusters on the layout. I also have a little mini cluster over here, and then I use my strips of paper, inked the edges for the circle, and then I use a couple of thickers, or I don't think they were thickers, I think they were just letter stickers from my stash to write Feelin' Ducky. And here's the dots. I love those things. Okay, so here's another example of hexagons. For this layout, I think it looks a lot more random, a little bit more busy, a lot of energy in this layout, which is perfect because of my little girl, Rory, who's a very energetic girl. She looks innocent as could be over here in this layout, but she's a little character. I'm just in love with her. I never had such a little dog before. She weighs 40 pounds, but she's very dense, so she's very tiny, and not tiny like a Chihuahua. My daughter's boyfriend has a Chihuahua that we just love, but small for my experience. So I just love picking her up. She's the only dog I've ever had that I could pick up. Anyway, back to the layout. I have my sprays in the background, or my Shimmerz paints in the background, with some stenciling and some stamping. And then I have this smaller cluster over here with some of the embellishments from the kit. For this layout, I have my mixed media background on this side. I use a pattern paper on this side, and then I use that same punch that I used on the very first layout I showed you to make this border strip. This is one of the dots. I just love that. I use some dyes and my Shimmerz paints to cut out and color the title. And then these flowers were fussy cut out. These are the same flowers that I used on the previous layout that I showed you. Well, I can't believe we're already in October. I feel like I just made this layout. This layout was made using some triangles that I cut out using a die. And then I used a whole bunch of different colors on the background. I think I didn't intend to, but then I ended up using quite a few. I also did some stenciling over the top of the mixed media with a spider web stencil. And then I used these two photos of my daughter Julia, who did some makeup. And I fussy cut out these bats, and I just love this little moon here. I added a couple of jewels in a couple of different spots just to highlight a few of these really cool embellishments. And then here's my other Halloween layout. I am a Halloween fan for sure. I love making Halloween layouts. And so I used the green in the background. I believe that was called celery. And then I layered these triangles on top. I have a number of the embellishments from the kit in different spots, making a couple of different clusters. And I have my photo of our Halloween jack-o'-lanterns. For this layout, I made a background that's monochromatic, and then I used a stencil with some white modeling paste on top of it. I think I added some white paint. I'm not really sure about that, but it looks like I did. And then I use all of these fussy cut elements. I think all of these were fussy cut out. And I added them in a couple of different spots. I have a number of clusters on this layout, and then this title was included, which was perfect for this layout, Sweater Weather. I really had fun making this layout. I loved using all the mixed media in the background. It covers a large area, a little bit more of an area than I'm used to covering with mixed media. And then I love this large scallop punch that I have. I use it every once in a while, and I think it worked out well because it was perfect for the word fall. And then I loved incorporating all these different floral elements. The sunflowers were fussy cut from one of the pattern papers. There are some leaves that I made using the new product from Shimmerz Paints called Twinklings. It's a sparkling watercolor. And then I also used the twinklings on these, which I believe I fussy cut out from one of the pattern papers. And then I love this finishing touch of the rainbow. And now here we are in December. So the December kit was super popular. It sold out very, very quickly. And I was really happy that I had one to work with because I loved all of the different shades of pink. I think that pink at Christmas is just amazing. I'm not a fan of pink at Halloween, but I do love pink at Christmas. And so I loved this pattern paper. I fussy cut it out, beautiful wreath. And then I used some of my Shimmerz paints to add some color to these branches that I cut out using some dyes. And then I also fussy cut out these ornaments and popped them up on some foam. I added some bows from my stash and a pearl to each one. And then I also fussy cut out these cute little Santas. And then for my final layout of the year, I have all of my embellishments clustered over here, a couple up here, and then a few banners. I think if I was going to do this layout again, I would have mounted these banners on some pink or green paper just so that they stood out a little bit more. So those are all the layouts that I have to share with you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that maybe it sparked a little bit of creativity, and I hope that you have a very happy and very healthy new year, and I hope to see you all again in the new year. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.